Welcome to our 6th annual H2O for HOAs. I'm very happy that you're here today. My name is Dwayne Cave, and I'm the president for Molten Miguel Water District, and I'll be your MC for the day. It's truly a privilege to see so many dedicated professionals from our local water departments, cities, and the county under one roof. But even better, we have HOA property managers and HOA directors, which I think are the key to making everything successful in life. Your presence here today is a testament to your commitment to ensuring our community's sustainable and prosperous future. I encourage you to take full advantage of this unique opportunity to network and connect with the fellow professionals. And look at the people to the right and left of you. Everybody has great ideas. Steal them and use them because it's very important. I mean, you are successful. You're here today because you want to be more successful, but you're successful because you're here today. The relationships you forge could lead to innovative collaborations, valuable knowledge exchanges, and lasting relationships. It's not just a conference, it's a community coming together to make a difference. I'd also like to express my deep gratitude to the City of Mission Viejo for graciously offering this venue here today. And I'll tell you what, this is a great venue here to host the 250 or so that are attending. But as you walk outside, what a beautiful courtyard. I mean, it's outstanding. So make sure you go out there, see our sponsors, see the water district, see everything going on, and you're gonna have a great day here today. So their support, the City of Mission Viejo, and enthusiasm has played a pivotal role in making today possible. Let's give a round of applause to the City of Mission Viejo for their partnership. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Mayor of Mission Viejo, Brian Goodell. Brian has been a driving force behind the city's initiatives, and his insights and expertise will undoubtedly inspire and motivate us as we embark on this enlightening journey together. So we're putting pressure on you there, Brian. Once again, thank you all for being here. Let's make the most of today, share your knowledge, work collaboratively towards a future where clean, accessible water is a reality for everyone. And with that, Mayor Brian Goodell.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the City of Mission Viejo. We're delighted you're all here, and we're delighted to have you here today at this beautiful place. And as Dwayne said, it's really nice outside, so make sure you take advantage of the environment here. At Mission Viejo, we take great pride in being your host for the 7th H2O for HMOs event. In face of years of intermittent drought and years of rain, our partnership takes on added significance. Water conservation efforts are pivotal, and we stand together in addressing this vital issue. As stewards of our environment, we recognize the crucial role of HMOs to management in water conservation. Today we unite for sustainable future.
It's not HMOs, it's HOAs.
It is?
Yeah. Homeowner associations.
Oh. Never mind. Good timing, Dwayne. Good timing. I want to introduce a distinguished speaker who will delve deeper into the history and importance of this event. Another former mayor of Mission Viejo and city council member for many years, and now the president of the Santa Margarita Water District Board of Directors, Frank Urey.
Well, I think from the standpoint of the City of Mission Viejo, there's probably nobody more appropriate to be the mayor and introducing this event than Brian Goodell. Since he's a former gold medalist Olympian in swimming, there's nobody in this room who spent more time with water than Brian. So thank you very much, Brian. I say this as somebody who enjoys the floating aspect of water, not the swimming aspect of water. I really appreciate everybody being here today. I think there's a lot that is going to be important for us over the next few years. I'm just going to give a few thoughts on kind of where I think this is all going. Real quickly, how many of you here are part of an HOA management firm, somebody who is part of the HOA, all right? And how many of you oversee the HOA firms that are actually doing the work, or everybody's just pretty much interested? Well, the reason I throw it out there is I had the chance, a wonderful chance when I was growing up. I was actually raised in Kansas. And in Kansas at the time, that's when they were doing a lot of real changeovers into water management. And this is back in the late 80s, early 90s. And it's interesting when you see how, we think we have these big HOAs and there's big areas and big cities and everything. Most of the friends I knew out there, they didn't refer to land in terms of acreage. What they did is they referred to land in terms of sections. And in Kansas, one section is a full square mile. And I knew people who owned 10, 8, 12 sections, which is roughly most of the size of the city of Mission Viejo. And they had to use at the time the technology and their management and stewards of water, fertilizer resources, soil conservation. They had to use that and how that industry changed, because at the time, if a farmer would feed 1,000 people, today they feed 2,500, and that's what keeps us fed at a normal rate. It also allows for population growth and everything that they're doing. And that's kind of where we are right now in water in California. It's been a constant battle on how we deal with things within the state of California. That battle's been interesting because on the one hand, as my mother-in-law aptly puts, why do I have to worry about water when the state of California wants us to build all this housing? So she sees the manic aspect of how things are going in Sacramento. It's our job as stewards of all this to make sure that we're managing it in a proper way to where the people who notice our work are the people locally, not the people up in Sacramento. It's going to be a big deal for us as we move forward with all this. And where I'm going with all this is there's changes going on within water and water management. And we're all going to be a part of it. And you have two choices. You get on the train or you get run over by it. There's nothing in between. There really isn't. And when you take a look at conferences like H2O for HOAs, you get the idea that this is the next big target. And I'll give you one example. As Brian said, I used to be on the city council in Mission Viejo. And at the time, we have one of the largest freshwater lakes here in Southern California called Lake Mission Viejo. And it's a freshwater lake. It's also a potable water lake, which means we're using water that you essentially would use at the time coming out of your tap. And every time there was a drought, every single time, whoever was in the governor's office, Mission Viejo was that target. And the collaborative, and this gets into why we're here at the conference, through collaboration between among the city of Mission Viejo, Santa Margarita Water District, and the Mission Viejo Lake Association, we came up with a public-private partnership that funded the advanced treatment. There's a little facility there at Marguerite and Alicia. The advanced treatment, so we essentially use, for the last almost 10 years, we use water runoff that's basically coming down from the gutters. And we generate between 300,000 and 500,000 gallons of water a day to feed back into Lake Mission Viejo, which means a couple things for us. Locally, it means you spend less water because Mission Viejo is a fully sustainable local lake. Largest one, by the way, in the state of California, man-made. The second aspect is we're no longer a target of Sacramento. We're not on their radar. We don't get their attention. And that's exactly what you want to do if you're running an HOA or if you're running anything in the state of California. You don't want to hear from them. But as I tell people, the benefit to us all, to everybody in the state of California, is every gallon we use locally, source locally, reclaim locally, is a gallon that's not coming out of Lake Mead, it's not coming out of Northern California, and it's a gallon that allows us to control our own destiny. And that's what this is all about. Because in the next 5 years, everybody associated with HOAs and HOA water and water management, I think there are two things that are going to be on your radar. The first one is if within 5 years, you will all be experts in data analytics, finding out and it's not just the cool part about turning valves on and off automatically and things like that. It's actually going to be the predictive nature, where you sit down and say, hey, I see this storm coming in 3 days, so in this area, for this green belt, I only need to water for 5 minutes instead of 15 because I have a predictive idea that something's going to come back. And we can talk AI and get into all those details, but that's where this is all going. That's why I think a lot of you are going to have basically data scientists who are not water people helping you out either through the agencies that we're working with or through others. But part of that is going to mean that we need to get ahead of this and we need to embrace it. And that's why I love the conference that we're doing, because here everybody needs to cheat off of everybody else's homework. When there are good ideas out there, cross-pollinate it. If it's stuff that Dwayne's agency's coming up with, Brian's, work with everybody, trade ideas, and try to get ahead of the whole thing, because that's where all this is going to go. So thank you for letting me go on that little piece, but I really need to give everybody an idea. This is going to change. Get on board. The water's warm. That's a terrible joke to wrap this up with. With that, I do know we have a lot of elected officials here. They're kind of the ones who get to do all the fun work, and usually only get the complaining calls, but sometimes the good ones. If you're an elected official, could you please stand up today? Aside from me and Dwayne and Brian. All right. So thank you very much for being here. And with that, thank you all very much for your time. Looking forward to the results of this, and hopefully get invited back next year. I'll turn it back over to Dwayne.
Well, thank you very much, Frank. And I think that wraps it up. Any questions? I think we're done for the day. Well, we'll keep going. So I want to thank, again, Santa Margarita Water District President Frank Urey and Mission Viejo Mayor Brian Goodell. Thank you very much for being here today to help kick this off. Now it's time for our keynote speaker. So I'm pleased to introduce our first presenter today, the esteemed Chief Sustainability, Resiliency, and Innovation Officer for Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, Liz Crossan. With a rich background in environmental advocacy, Liz spearheads efforts to reduce Metropolitan's carbon footprint and promote climate resiliency. Her extensive experience and commitment to sustainability make her a guiding light in our collective pursuit of a greener, more resilient future. Please join me in welcoming Liz Crossan. Liz.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and good morning, everyone. I really am so pleased to be here. It's rare that you get an event or a conference that's really just focused on one particular sector, and I think that's really important to acknowledge, your common challenges and opportunities. And I think what we've learned in at least this last decade in California, as we've seen the hydrological cycle act even more unpredictably, is that one size does not fit all. And so it really does make sense for you all to be collaborating and working together. And so I'm really excited to be part of this conversation today. So for those of you I haven't met, I joined Metropolitan about a year and a half ago as this Chief Sustainability, Resilience, and Innovation Officer, which is a brand new position. It's a brand new office. And it really is the result of our, somewhat new general manager, Adel Haj Khalil, really seeing that there was a need to coordinate and bring these efforts together under one umbrella. Obviously, these disciplines have been happening at Metropolitan and water agencies for a long time, but by putting an office together that really can help work across the district and collaborate with the different groups, it really helps us really become the leaders that I know that we can be in this space. It makes us much more effective, much more efficient, and I think that we're starting to actually see those results already. So I just to add a little bit about my background, because I don't come from water agencies originally. This is a new endeavor for me. I have been in public service for about 8 years. I served in the Garcetti administration in the mayor's office as the director of infrastructure and the deputy chief sustainability officer. And before that, I was in the nonprofit space. So I worked for Waterkeeper and other nonprofits on water issues. So water is not new, but working in a water agency is certainly a new and exciting challenge for me. So I wanted to really just start out and make sure that we're all on the same page as far as who Metropolitan is. I'm sure that many of you are aware of Metropolitan Water District. However, I also know that, from coming from the outside into Metropolitan, it can be really difficult to really understand Met's role and the different roles that they play when it comes to working with their member agencies. So just a few stats. We are the largest water wholesaler in the nation. We deliver to 19 million people in Southern California through our 26 member agencies. And that's a really important piece. We are a single-purpose entity. We're really all about the wholesale water delivery. And we were built on importing water for Southern California to grow and thrive. So we started with importing water from the Colorado, and then quickly got on board to also be part of the State Water Project, bringing in water from the Bay Delta. And those have been our primary sources of water for almost 100 years. Now, we've also been investing in our local agencies for them to develop local water supplies, whether that's groundwater remediation, water recycling, desalination, and so we have played that role, but it's not until recently that we've actually really looked at developing our own significant water supply sources in the region, and it has a lot to do with climate change, and I'll talk about that. So the way that Metropolitan has always done its planning is really been focused on drought cycles. And I think climate change has sort of behaved exactly how we thought it might, but also kind of hoped it wouldn't. And we're behind the ball when it comes to adapting to these changes. We've been talking for a long time about how we might reduce the impacts of climate change through, greening our grid and driving electric cars and walking and biking and all the other ways that we've thought about reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. But when it comes to actually adapting to the changes that we're seeing, we're behind. And that has, been really clear in the last several years. Not only have we seen impacts to our water supply sources, we've actually seen impacts to both of them at the same time, which was unprecedented. So we have a millennium drought going on in the Colorado River, and we had the lowest consecutive years of allocation from the State Water Project happening at the same time. And that wasn't something that we had necessarily planned for, and we learned quickly that our infrastructure was not prepared to deal with it. And we've also seen, the different cascading impacts of other types of climate effects. Fire, we've seen fire, significant fire in the headwaters of the Bay Delta system. We've seen the increasing heat in the Colorado Basin and how that's actually impacting the levels in Lake Mead. And again, we've seen, series of drought after drought after drought. So it really says to us, we have some serious vulnerabilities, and this is now happening. And it's now really on us to figure out how to adapt. And it's completely doable. And I'm almost done with the doom and gloom obligatory part of my presentation. But it really is this opportunity for us to look at things differently and to really, we have a lot of resources. And I'm not just talking about financial resources as a state, but we have these, incredible agencies that have been doing this for a long time. We have incredible systems that move water all over the place. Some of them are actually gravity. Some of them produce electricity. We have reservoirs. We have groundwater basins that are completely underutilized in some parts of the state. So we have a ton of resources. We just have to rethink the way that we use them. And so that's a lot of what we've been trying to do at Metropolitan, and really a lot of what this Office of Sustainability, Resilience, and Innovation is focused on. And so there are a few places where I think, we're really focused on what can we do to really affect some change right now. So a little bit about these pictures. I think you all are acutely aware of efforts to reduce our water use and transition to more efficient uses, both in and outside of our homes and businesses. Metropolitan has, for a long time, significantly invested in rebates and incentives to help make that transition, and we've seen an incredible amount of water savings from those programs. And on your top left, that's the Delta Islands. Those are the islands within the Bay Delta system. And Metropolitan actually owns 4 islands in that system. And we are experimenting with changing out the types of crops that we use to be more water efficient, but also these islands are sinking. They're peat soils, and they, as they sink and they erode, not only do they impact the flow within the delta, they also emit a ton of greenhouse gases. So we have a real opportunity to see some multiple benefits by building up those soils with other crops that will maintain. So shifting from corn to rice on some of these islands, we lease land to farmers. We're also looking at restoring wetlands, and we've received some funding from the state to do that. And this isn't just about restoration or agricultural protection. This is actually about protecting the water sources that we all use in Southern California. Without the Bay Delta and that freshwater pathway that brings water from the Sierras to Southern California, we would be in real trouble. And so it's really about building up that system, increasing the resilience of the levees, using new innovative technologies to sense when we have a potential levee failure. So these are the types of activities that we're doing in the Delta. Because I know you may be wondering, what about the tunnel in the back of your mind right now? And that may happen, or it may not. And regardless if it does or doesn't, we need to increase the resilience of the Bay Delta. Because even if that tunnel was in place, we would still be receiving water through those pumps through the Delta, unless we allow this land to subside and sea level rise to impact our ability to get fresh water there. Or if there are species impacts that continue to compel the state to impose new and more stringent regulations, if you can imagine. And so this is a really important part of us building our resilience, and it's not always what you think about when you think about what is Metropolitan doing to protect our water supply or build new water supply. Down on the right is the Pure Water Southern California project. This is a water reuse project. We're partnering with LA County sanitation districts in Carson to use a water reclamation facility, a wastewater facility that's been there for almost a century, and to actually take that wastewater, treat it, and put it into the drinking water system. We're going to do that likely through several different ways, putting some of it in groundwater, moving some of it up to our filtration plants and to our member agencies. But this is a major project for Metropolitan, not anything that we've done ever, but it really is about building resilience within our system and ensuring that we have a water supply that is much less dependent on drought or on our hydrological cycle. So I'm not going to say it's completely drought proof, because low flows also impact the input into our wastewater treatment facilities, but it is certainly more drought proof than anything we're relying on right now at significant scale. And then on the bottom left, just to mention, something that we are doing in our facilities is to install solar panels and batteries so that we can have that kind of building resilience, operational resilience in some of our facilities. And of course, this has the added benefit of providing green energy for our operations. So what are we doing overall when it comes to climate change at Metropolitan? I've given you a few of the examples, but when you think about building climate resilience, there's really two sides of one coin. So there's reducing emissions so it doesn't get worse, and maybe even it gets better. And then there's the other side of this stuff is just happening. We're experiencing weather whiplash. We need to build up resilience in our systems and make sure that not just that we survive, but we actually can thrive in this changing environment. And so at Metropolitan, I'll talk about our climate action plan. So we have a goal to get to carbon neutrality, and we're doing a lot of different things to do that. So we are phasing out our fossil fuel vehicles wherever possible. And I'll just note, for you that are public agencies, you probably are subject to the new regulations from the state that actually require us to phase out our use of internal combustion vehicles in medium and heavy duty classes. of vehicles. So that's, that's something that is certainly being driven by our climate commitment, but let's be real, we're facing severe penalties if we don't do it. So it really is, forcing us to think about that. Like I mentioned, we're looking at renewable energy projects. We also own a lot of land, not just in the Delta, but out in the desert along the Colorado River Aqueduct. Originally, obviously, it was to secure those water rights. We lease them out to farmers, but we also have some properties that aren't great for agriculture. So we have an RFP out right now to build some renewable energy on that land. So really trying to maximize the use of the resources that we have. And then climate adaptation is really, what I think you all think about when you think about what a water agency needs to do to continue to thrive. Expanding our storage, looking at new conveyance options to move water around. We're actually looking at a few different pipelines that are bilateral. So depending on if the water, if we have a lot in the Colorado, we could move it that way. If we have a lot on the Delta, we could move it the other direction. If it's connected to something like pure water recycling plant, it actually could move water either way. So really trying to think about that flexibility and build in some redundancy is a big part of it. And then there's this sweet spot in the middle that is really the things that do both. That both help us to adapt and also help reduce our emissions. So I want to talk about water conservation efficiency. I think that's where a lot of you probably spend a lot of your time. How many of you are familiar with AB 1572 to phase out non-functional turf? Is it your favorite legislation? So, it obviously was a controversial bill. It also is monumental in a few ways. One of them is that Metropolitan was actually a sponsor of that bill, which was not an easy thing to do, considering the different interests and opinions and experiences of our board of directors and our member agencies. And we co-sponsored the bill with NRDC and Heal the Bay. That has never happened. And so it really was this monumental experience of bringing together, again, the largest water wholesaler and these two environmental organizations and trying to come up with some compromises. Because the reason why it was so important to Adele and our team to be part of that, because it is the right thing to do, and it is the track that we need to be on, but we also need to be at the table to make sure that it's going to work. It's going to work for all of our member agencies, and it's going to work for our customers. And so it really was a monumental, and I consider it to be a huge success. And we pushed hard against some of the requirements that the other folks that were sponsoring the bill wanted to have in there. We ended up taking out multifamily housing. I know that doesn't necessarily impact you, but we did make some concessions, and a lot of it was really about the affordability piece, and making sure that as we make these transitions to adapt, that we aren't leaving people behind. So that's a place where I don't know if you all are aware, but you probably are, that dollar for dollar, when you invest in water efficiency measures, you're actually saving more electricity use than energy efficiency measures. So during the drought, UC Davis did a study that showed that all the water efficiency measures that we took saved more energy than all the energy efficiency ones did. And I think you've probably heard the stat, and sometimes it's mischaracterized, but 20% of the energy used in California goes to water. And it's true, but everybody assumes that you mean moving it around and pulling it over the Tehachapi and bringing it over from the Colorado River and all that. And that is a portion. But by far the largest portion is the energy that we use in our homes and businesses to heat water and to treat, and that the water agencies use to treat water. That's where the energy use is. So when you put in these measures, you really have the opportunity to not only save water and save on your bills, But you also have this connection to saving on the energy side of things. And what is really unfortunate is that that has not been acknowledged by the state or federal government when they look at how to fund these types of investments in efficiencies. So there's a ton of aid and assistance out there for customers if you need help on your energy bill, if you need help with food, if you need help on your phone bill. There's more incentives and subsidies out there than for water, which water is essential. And so there's a real opportunity here for groups like you and us and our water districts to really work together to ensure that we're actually getting the investments that are necessary to make the changes that we need. So just a little bit on our climate action plan. I'm going to go back to adaptation because I think that's probably the part you're most interested in. But we do have a goal of getting to carbon neutrality by 2045 at Met. The pie chart is our emissions. So our GHG emissions, the vast majority, is coming from the electricity that we use to move water around and treat it. And so for us, it's how can we green that portion? You know, do we can buy green energy. Sometimes it can be cheaper, sometimes it's a little bit more. We can also build green energy. And then, you know, when it comes to our own combustion, that's where our fleet comes in and our buildings and our use. So we are looking at all those things. And I think the biggest challenge and opportunity really is to mainstream this stuff into all of our operations. So making sure when we're building stuff that we're not just thinking about the acre feet, but we're also thinking about the carbon footprint and whether there's a more efficient way to do it. Because I think the link between carbon reduction, greenhouse gas reduction, and cost is real. And so I think making that case is really important. I also just want to point out our emissions because it's really crazy. Usually when you see a line graph of emissions of an agency over time, it might go down a little bit or go up and go down. But ours is insane. It's super volatile because it really reflects when we go on and off the State Water Project. Because we don't operate the State Water Project, so this only reflects our emissions beyond what we get from Hoover Dam on the Colorado. So it's sort of an interesting way to see our emissions, but because we know that, we can track it. And we do have a public-facing dashboard. We have a public-facing dashboard where you can see our emissions activities and the progress that we're making towards our goal. So a little bit about climate adaptation. So when I got to Metropolitan, I had this vision. I was going to come in and develop a sustainability plan and green the whole place. And actually, there's a lot of greening that has already happened. But what Adele and the board chair wanted was to develop a climate adaptation master plan. So we had just gone through these severe 3 years of drought, followed by a series of atmospheric rivers. And the board was like, we need to figure this out. One of the things that had happened that I alluded to earlier is that a part of our system that is up in the northern part, so if you're familiar with Las Virgenes and Calleguas, and the northern part of the city of Los Angeles and some of our inland agencies, they are what we call the state water dependent areas, state water project dependent areas. And so they actually can only receive water from the state water project. They are not connected to the Colorado River system. And so what happened when we had 3 years of the state saying, 5% allocation, 0% allocation, 5% allocation, is that those areas, for the first time in our history alone, they had emergency conservation mandates in that area. So some of them were asked to cut as much as 70%. And that impacted almost 7 million people. I think it was about 7 weeks that it went on. We were negotiating with the state to ensure we had health and safety water. But this was a severe situation. And you've got Metropolitan, who is really based on, it's a voluntary cooperative where our motto is, all for one for all. Like we make sure that everybody has access to safe and reliable water. That's our core mission. So that was a very challenging time, and that was much of the catalyst to say we need to do this long-term adaptation plan. And so that's what we're working on now. And in the past, we've done planning just like, this is what we think the future looks like, and we're gonna figure out what we need to do that. Now we're using scenario planning, identifying that severe climate change is happening, and we don't exactly know what that's gonna look like. We can plan within a range, and then we're gonna have to have these, signposts and check-in points where we say, is population doing what we thought we did? Are we building the housing that we thought we were going to? Are the state standards on efficiency being implemented in the way that they intended? Is the climate behaving the way that we thought it would? And so it acknowledges the uncertainty, but it gives us a pathway where we can plan in a way and set our objectives in a very clear way. And the thing I'll just leave you with is, this plan that we're working on really has these 5 mutual goals. And I've talked a lot about like the infrastructure and the investments, but the financial and the affordability side of this is up front and center as well. And so as we develop these options, we will clearly be looking at the financial implications of that and looking for ways for Metropolitan to help lead on how we get the assistance we need to make sure that everyone can afford clean and reliable water. And so that is a major component of this effort. So we'll be developing a framework and a roadmap that will kind of lay out what our different projects are going to look like, and really focus on what do we need to do in the near term. That will probably look like some sort of, or quite a bit of infrastructure to make sure that state water dependent area problem doesn't happen again. Our board has committed to connect and build conveyance so that doesn't happen again. And so that's at the top of the list of where we're going to be making some commitments on investment. And then we'll look at solutions like pure water and other and storage. We just opened up a storage, Antelope Valley Water Bank up in the northern part of our area on the State Water Project as a storage project. So we are looking at all of these opportunities, and then we'll have to weigh them against each other and make some tough choices. But by doing it in this long-term plan sort of approach, we get to actually look at the trade-offs of the different projects that are before us and decide what's truly going to meet our resilience goal, what's truly going to deliver reliability, and what's going to do that in a way that's affordable. And so that's really what we're working towards. So I really appreciate the opportunity to share with you all what Metropolitan is doing. I really see the work that you're doing down here in South Orange County as leadership. I know that you all have been deeply involved in water efficiency and conservation and been very successful. And so I think there's a lot of ways that we can continue to do that in a way that makes sense specifically for your communities and for your sector. So thanks again for having me, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Liz. So when I kind of think about Metropolitan Water District, I think about the canals and the water coming down from Northern California to Southern California to feed us water that we need. But there's a lot about the resiliency that we have and sustainability that Liz is talking about. So we appreciate her being here today. At this time, I'd like to bring up Brian Probolski, the Vice President, Molten Miguel Water District, who is going to talk a little bit about H2O for HOAs, the history, and what we want to accomplish today. So with that, Vice President, Molten Miguel Water District, Brian Probolski.
Well, good morning. That was a great presentation by Liz. Thank you very much for doing that. I am Brian Probolski. I'm Vice President of the Molten Miguel Water District, and I just wanted to welcome you here this morning. This is really a fantastic turnout. I can't even get from one end of the room to the other, which is exciting, and that it reflects on the journey, the awe-inspiring journey that we've come to get here. We started H2O for HOAs only back in 2018. We had just 7 cities and water agencies that were partners, and now we've blossomed to what we have today with so many partners and a truly regional event. You can see here on the screen all of our partners. It's just too much to read the whole list, but I'll share it with you. And as you look at the screen, also on the back of your program, you can see everyone that's really put this together today. Laguna Niguel was our initial host city, and they were the seed of the collaboration and the effort that brought this all together. And now we flourish we have 11 cities, 6 water agencies, and the County of Orange as part of this program. So I want to extend my deepest gratitude, Molten Niguel, and our community's deepest gratitude for all of our partners who brought this together. Part of the planning now, or things that we didn't expect, was just finding a bigger room. So thank you to Mission Viejo and Mayor Goodell for hosting and making this possible today. I also want to say, we make hundreds of thousands, maybe a million communications with our customers at Molten Niguel every year, but we reserve one thing for today, for the fancy people. We call it water all year long, but today it's H2O. Special just for today, and we're glad that you're here to do it. You also learned some trigonometry. If you look at your tables there, I didn't know we were going to get into trapezoids, but apparently that's part of the program. So pay attention again to the posters, to your agencies, see the presentations in the hall. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking a part of your day. When they first told me we were going to do this event back in 2018, I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think people would put their day on hold, their regular life, to come and learn about something that we do every day and we know is so critical, but clearly everybody understands that, and it's meaningful and impactful that you're here and taking in this information and then able to bring that back to your communities, to your individual HOAs, to your neighbors, to your own houses, to execute on some of the planning and some of the learnings that you'll have today.